The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. The ceiling rose so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were covered in gold and precious stones from 100 different worlds. 3 massive chairs sat on a raised platform, and in those chairs sat the 3 most powerful beings in the galaxy. Park Do-yun stood alone in the center of the hall. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council for 3 years. 3 years of asking. 3 years of begging. 3 years of being told no. Behind him stood Kim Yuna, his chief negotiator. She was younger than Do-yun, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She held a data tablet in her hands, but she already knew they would not need it today. She had seen that look on the ambassador's face before. Something was about to break. "You ask for too much," said Thalos, the Valari speaker. She was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Her voice was soft, but her words were hard. Humanity has been part of galactic society for only 80 years. You are children. Children do not demand equal seats at the table. "We are not asking for charity," Do-yun said. His voice was calm, but Yuna could hear the strain in it. "We are asking for fair trade routes. We are asking for recognition of the colonies we have built with our own hands. We are asking to be treated as partners, not as servants." Korath, the Morath representative, laughed. It was an ugly sound. He was massive, with thick scales and teeth like knives. The Morath were warriors. They respected only strength. "Partners?" he said. "You have 12 systems? 12. The Morath Empire has 800. What do you bring to this partnership? Your tiny ships? Your weak bodies?" "We bring our work," Do-yun said. "Our engineers keep your stations running. Our doctors serve on your hospital ships. Our scientists have solved problems your people could not solve for centuries. We have earned our place." "You have earned nothing," said the third voice. It came from the Thren representative, a creature that looked like a mass of floating crystals. The Thren did not have names that humans could pronounce, so they simply called him the Voice. "You exist because we allow it. Your outer colonies sit on mineral-rich systems. These systems should belong to the Council. You will surrender them as tribute for our continued protection." Yuna felt her hands tighten on her tablet. Tribute. They wanted humanity to give up 5 of their 12 systems. 5 colonies with millions of people. Just hand them over like they were nothing? Do-yun was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very quiet. "And if we refuse?" Thalos smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Then you will learn what happens to young species who forget their place. The galaxy is very large, Ambassador, and very dangerous. You need us far more than we need you." Yuna watched Do-yun's shoulders. She had known him for 10 years. She had seen him stay calm when ships were burning. She had seen him smile while negotiating with pirates. But now she saw something she had never seen before. She saw him give up, but it was not the giving up of a defeated man. It was the giving up of a man who had finally realized that the game could not be won by playing fair. Do-yun reached down and picked up his data tablets. He straightened his jacket. He looked at each of the 3 council members in turn. "The United Earth Federation withdraws from these negotiations," he said. "Permanently." For a moment there was silence. Then Korath laughed again, louder this time. "Withdraws? Where will you go? You cannot survive without council trade. Your colonies will starve. Your people will come crawling back within a year." "Perhaps," Do-yun said. He turned and began walking toward the door. "Ambassador," Thalos called after him. Her voice was amused, like an adult watching a child throw a tantrum. "Do you really think this will change anything? You are not important enough to matter." "You never were." Do-yun stopped at the door. He did not turn around. "You will remember this day," he said. Then he walked out, and Yuna followed him. The doors closed behind them with a heavy sound. The hallway outside was empty. Their footsteps echoed on the stone floor. "Sir," Yuna said quietly, "did we just declare independence from the council?" "No," Do-yeon said. We declared that we are done being treated like animals. What happens next is up to them. They will not take this well. No, they will not. They walked in silence for a while. Then Yuna asked the question that was burning in her mind. Do we have a plan? Do-yeon smiled. It was a small smile, tired but real. We have been preparing for this day for 50 years. Since before I was born. Since before my father was born. The council thinks we are children because we are young. They think we are weak because we are small. They think we are stupid because we are kind. He looked at her. They are wrong on all three counts. They reached the transport bay where their shuttle was waiting. The pilot, a young woman named Bik-su, stood at attention when she saw them. Ambassador, she said, is everything all right? You are early. Everything is fine, Do-yeon said. Take us home, and send a message to Earth Command. Tell them the door is closed. Begin Protocol 7. Sue's eyes widened. She clearly knew what that meant, even if Yuna did not. Yes, sir, Sue said. Right away. As the shuttle lifted off and left the station behind, Yuna looked back at the great council hall through the window. It looked so impressive from the outside. So powerful. So permanent. She wondered how long it would stand, back in the council chamber. Thalis waved one of her 4 hands dismissively. Humans, she said. So emotional. They will be back in 6 months, begging for forgiveness. We should send a fleet, Korath growled. Remind them of their place. There is no need, said the voice. They are insignificant. Let them have their tantrum. They will learn soon enough that they cannot survive alone. The 3 rulers of the galaxy returned to their other business. They had more important things to worry about than one small. Angry species. They would realize their mistake soon enough, but by then, it would be far too late. 6 months passed, and the galaxy began to notice that something was wrong. It started with small things. A human engineer who did not show up for work on a Morath battlecruiser. A human doctor who left a Velari hospital without saying goodbye. A human translator who simply vanished from a Thren diplomatic mission. At first, no one thought much of it. Humans were everywhere in the galaxy. They took the jobs that other species did not want. They worked in the hot engine rooms. They served in the dangerous frontier clinics. They translated languages that no one else had patience to learn. Losing a few of them meant nothing. But then a few became dozens, and dozens became hundreds, and hundreds became thousands. Choi Minho sat in the Strategic Command Center on Earth and watched the numbers climb. He was a young lieutenant with a serious face and quick hands. His job was to coordinate the recall of every human asset from Council space. It was the biggest secret operation in human history, and it was his responsibility to make sure no one noticed until it was too late. Transport 7 just crossed into our space, said the officer next to him. 342 engineers from Morath Station Kappa. Good, Minho said. How many are still out there? About 12,000. Another 2 months, and we will have everyone. 2 months. It seemed like a long time, but they had waited 50 years. They could wait a little longer, his communicator beeped. He looked at it and felt his heart sink. It was a message from his sister. Choi Yunji was a xenobiologist. She had spent the last 5 years working on a Velari science vessel, studying plants from 100 different worlds. She was brilliant. She was also stubborn. When Minho first told her about the recall, she refused to come home. My work is important, she had said. I am close to a breakthrough. Disease-resistant crops that could feed billions of people. I cannot just leave. You have to, Minho had said. It is not safe anymore. The Velari are scientists. They will not hurt me. But now she was sending him a message. That meant something had changed. He opened it. Her face appeared on the screen. She looked tired. And scared. You were right, she said. I am coming home. I will be on the next transport. What happened? Minho asked. Yunji was quiet for a moment. They started asking questions. About my research. About my files? They wanted copies of everything. When I said no, they said it was Valari property because I did it on their ship. She shook her head. 5 years of my life, and they think they own it. They never respected me. I was just useful to them. Minho felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Just come home. Bring all your research with you. Every file, every sample. Do not leave them anything. I will not, Yinji said. I promise. She ended the call, and Minho sat back in his chair. His sister was one of the last to understand, but she understood now. That was what mattered. Across the galaxy. The Council was beginning to feel the effects of the human withdrawal on the Valari homeworld. Food production fell by 30%. It turned out that human agricultural consultants had been managing most of their farming systems. The Valari had the technology, but they did not have the patience for the slow, careful work of growing things. They had always left that to others. In Thren space, communication arrays began to fail. The Thren had designed brilliant systems, but they were too proud to do maintenance work. Human technicians had kept everything running for decades. Now those technicians were gone, and no one knew how to fix the problems they left behind. The Morith had the biggest shock of all. Their newest warships, the pride of their fleet, refused to move. The navigation systems were locked. The engines would not start. Human programmers had written the software that controlled everything, and they had written it with secret codes that only humans knew. Korith screamed and broke things. He threatened to kill every human in Morith space. But there were no humans left in Morith space. They had all gone home. THLIS sent a message to Earth. It was not a request. It was a demand. You will return your workers to their positions immediately. You will unlock our systems. You will provide the codes we require. This is not a negotiation. This is an order. Failure to obey will be considered an act of war. Earth did not respond. Days passed. Then weeks. Thalas sent more messages. Each one was angrier than the last. Each one was ignored. On Earth, Ambassador Park Do-yun read the messages and smiled. They still do not understand, he said. They think they can order us around. They think we are afraid of them. Are we not? Asked Kim Yuna. They have larger fleets. More soldiers. More weapons. They have numbers, Do-yun agreed. But we have something better. We have time. And we have patience. Let them be angry. Let them make threats. Every day that passes, they grow weaker and we grow stronger. He was right. Every day more humans came home. They brought their skills with them. They brought their knowledge. They brought their anger at being treated like servants for so long, and they brought something else. They brought secrets. Every human who had worked in Council space had seen things. Weaknesses, flaws, mistakes. They knew where the Valari kept their most valuable data. They knew the access codes for Thren networks. They knew the design flaws in Morith weapons. 50 years of being everywhere, doing everything, serving everyone. 50 years of being ignored because they were just humans. Now all of that knowledge was coming home. Choi Yunji arrived on the last transport from Valari space. Minho met her at the landing bay. She looked exhausted, but she was smiling. I brought everything, she said. Every file. Every sample. Every note. Good, Minho said. Your work will feed our people, and theirs will starve. Yunji's smile faded. I did not want it to be like this. I wanted to help everyone. So did we all, Minho said. But they did not want our help. They wanted our service? There is a difference. He took her bag and led her toward the transport that would take them to the city. Behind them, the landing bay was full of humans returning home. Scientists, engineers, doctors, soldiers, all of them had the same look in their eyes, tired, angry, ready. The Council had made a mistake. They had thought that humans were too small to matter, too weak to fight, too kind to hold a grudge. They were about to learn just how wrong they were, and the lesson would be painful 1 year after. Ambassador Park Do-yun walked out of the Council chamber. The Morath Empire decided to teach humanity a lesson. Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. Around him were 47 of the finest warships in the Morath fleet. They had come to human space to show these small, soft creatures what real power looked like. "They have 12 systems," Korath said to his officers. "We will take 3 of them today. The rest will surrender by the end of the week. Then we will drag their ambassador back to the council in chains." His officers nodded and growled their approval. This would be easy. Humans had no real military. Their ships were small and slow. Their weapons were weak. Everyone knew this. Everyone was wrong. The Morath fleet entered the Kepler system, home to one of humanity's largest colonies. They expected to find a few patrol ships, maybe a small defense station. Instead, they found Admiral Yun Taeyong waiting for them. Taeyong was not a large man. He was not loud or aggressive. He had a calm face and a quiet voice. He had been a teacher before he joined the military, but he had spent 20 years preparing for this exact moment. "Admiral," said his censor officer, 48 Morath warships, heavy cruisers, full weapons." "I see them," Taeyong said. He stood with his hands behind his back, looking at the view screen. "Open a channel." Korath's face appeared on the screen. He was smiling, showing all of his teeth. "Human, I am Korath of the Morath Empire. You will surrender your colony and your ships. If you do this, I will let your people live as slaves. If you do not, I will kill every one of them." Taeyong did not smile. "I am Admiral Yun Taeyong of the United Earth Federation. You have entered our space without permission. You have threatened our people. You have 5 minutes to leave." Korath laughed. 5 minutes? I will destroy you in 2. "Then you should start now," Taeyong said. "Your time is running out." Korath stopped laughing. He ended the transmission and gave the order to attack. The battle lasted 4 minutes. The Morath ships were big and powerful, but they were also slow and predictable. They fought the same way they had always fought, the way they had fought for 1,000 years. They charged forward and tried to crush their enemies with superior firepower, but humanity had been watching the Morath for 50 years. They knew every tactic, every pattern, every weakness, and they had built their ships to exploit every single one. The human ships were small and fast. They moved in ways the Morath had never seen. They attacked from angles that should have been impossible. Their weapons were not bigger than Morath weapons. They were smarter. They hit the exact spots where Morath armor was weakest. They disabled engines and weapons with surgical precision. Within 2 minutes, half the Morath fleet was dead in space. Within 3 minutes, the survivors were trying to run. Within 4 minutes, it was over. Korath stood on his bridge, surrounded by smoke and fire. His ship was crippled. His fleet was destroyed. He could not believe what had just happened. "How?" he whispered. "How is this possible?" He would never get an answer. His ship exploded 30 seconds later. Only 19 Morath ships made it out of the system. They limped back to Council space with the news of their defeat. The story spread across the galaxy within hours. The Morath had lost 47 ships. The humans had lost 3. On Earth, Defense Minister Beek Jasu addressed the Federation Assembly. She was a small woman with white hair and cold eyes. She had spent her entire life preparing for this war, and she was not surprised by the victory. "For 50 years we have been building," she said, "hidden shipyards in our outer systems, secret research facilities on moons and asteroids, weapons designed specifically to defeat each council species. We did this because we knew this day would come. We hoped it would not. We prepared because we knew it would." She pressed a button, and images appeared on the screen behind her. Ships, hundreds of ships, thousands of ships. Carriers and cruisers and destroyers, all bearing the flag of Earth. "We are not the weak species they think we are," Beek said. "We never were. We were simply patient. We were simply waiting for the right moment. That moment has come." The assembly erupted in cheers, but Beek was not finished. She pressed another button and new images appeared. Massive structures orbiting Earth and every human colony. defense platforms. Each one was the size of a small moon. Each one was covered in weapons. We have 342 orbital defense platforms, Beak said. Each one can destroy a fleet by itself. Each one is protected by shields that no Council weapon can penetrate. Let them come. Let them all come. They will not take a single human world. That night, Han Soman, Earth's intelligence chief, made sure the Council received copies of these images. She sent them through channels that the Council thought were secret. She wanted them to know that humanity knew their secrets. She wanted them to be afraid. On the Valari homeworld, Thalas watched the images in her private chamber. She watched them again and again. Her forehands were shaking. "This is not possible," she said. "They are humans. They are nothing." "They are not nothing," said her advisor. "They have been preparing for this for 50 years. While we ignored them, they were building. While we insulted them, they were learning. We made a terrible mistake. What do we do? I do not know. But we cannot fight them. Not anymore. Perhaps not ever." Thalas sat in silence for a long time. She thought about all the times she had dismissed human concerns. All the times she had called them children. All the times she had laughed at their requests for respect. She was not laughing now, across the galaxy. The other species were having similar realizations. The Thren calculated the odds of winning a war against humanity and did not like the numbers. Minor species that had always been bullied by the Council began to look at humans with new eyes. Maybe there was hope after all. Maybe the Council could be challenged on Earth. Admiral Yun Tae-young visited the memorial for the 3 ships that had been lost in the battle. 112 humans had died. He knew all of their names. He had written letters to all of their families. Was it worth it? Asking Yuna, who had come with him, Tae-young thought about the question for a long time. They gave their lives so that we would never have to kneel again. Yes, it was worth it. But I wish it had not been necessary. So do we all, Yuna said. They stood in silence, remembering the dead. The wind blew across the memorial, carrying the smell of flowers. The battle was over. But the war was just beginning. And humanity was ready. 18 months after humanity walked away from the Council, the galaxy was falling apart. Bashin Nara stood at the window of her office and watched the refugee ships arriving. There were hundreds of them today. There had been hundreds yesterday. There would be hundreds tomorrow. They came from everywhere: Valari, Thren, Morath, and dozens of smaller species that had never been part of the Council but had always lived under its shadow. They came to human space because they had nowhere else to go. Nara was the Federation's Director of Humanitarian Affairs. It was a job that had not existed 2 years ago. Now it was one of the most important positions in the government. She had 10,000 people working for her, and it was not enough. "Director," said her assistant, a young man named Quan Ti-men, "the Council has sent another message. They are demanding that we stop accepting refugees. They say we are stealing their citizens." Nara laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Stealing? These people are running for their lives. The Council cannot feed them, cannot protect them, cannot give them medicine or jobs or hope. But we are stealing them? What should I tell them? Tell them nothing. We stopped answering their messages a year ago. We are not going to start now." She turned back to the window. The ships kept coming. The collapse had happened faster than anyone expected. Without humans to hold things together, the Council had started to tear itself apart. The Valari and the Morath had nearly gone to war over a disputed nebula. For 300 years, humans had served as mediators between them. Humans had written the treaties. Humans had managed the negotiations. Humans had found compromises when everyone else was ready to fight. Now there were no humans, and the old hatreds came rushing back. The Thren made things worse. They sold weapons to both sides. They spread lies and rumors. They played the Valari and Morath against each other, hoping to weaken both and take power for themselves. It was what they had always done. But without humans to expose their tricks and calm tensions, Their schemes worked too well. The war was stopped only when both sides realized they were running out of food and fuel. Their economies were collapsing. Their people were starving. They needed every resource for survival, not for fighting, but stopping the war did not solve the problems. Piracy exploded along the trade routes. Without human security forces to patrol the shipping lanes, criminals took over entire sectors. Goods stopped moving. Prices rose. People suffered. The minor species suffered most of all. They had never had much power in the council. They had survived by trading with everyone and staying out of conflicts. Now there was no one to trade with and conflicts were everywhere, so they ran. They packed what they could carry and fled to the only place that seemed safe. Human space. Lieutenant Choi Min-ho led a patrol along the border. His job was to escort refugee ships safely to human stations. It was dangerous work. Pirates attacked the convoys. Sometimes council ships tried to stop them, demanding that the refugees return. Min-ho's orders were clear: protect the refugees at all costs. Today, his patrol found something unexpected. A Valari transport ship, drifting without power. It had been attacked by pirates. The engines were destroyed. The hull was torn open. Life support was failing. Get us alongside, Min-ho ordered. Prepare rescue teams? Sir, said his sensor officer. There are over 200 people on that ship. Valari civilians? If we take them on board, we will not have room for our own crew. Then we will be crowded, Min-ho said. Move. His crew did not hesitate. Within an hour, they had rescued every person on the Valari ship. The survivors were scared and confused. Many were injured. Some were children. Min-ho made sure each of them received food, water, and medical care. Among the survivors was a young Valari diplomat named Salith. She had 4 arms like all Valari, and her blue skin was pale with fear. But when Min-ho approached her, she stood up straight and looked him in the eye. Why did you save us? She asked. We are Valari. Your enemies. You are not our enemies, Min-ho said. You are people who needed help. That is all that matters. Salith stared at him for a long moment. Then she did something Min-ho did not expect. She started to cry. I am sorry, she said. I worked for the council. I wrote reports about humanity. I told them what they wanted to hear. That you were not important. That you contributed nothing of value. That you could be replaced. She shook her head. I knew it was lies. I knew how much you did for us. But I wrote the lies anyway because that was my job. Min-ho did not know what to say. He had spent the last 18 months hating the council, hating the Valari, hating everyone who had treated humanity like servants. But looking at this crying woman, he did not feel hatred. He felt something else. Pity. You were not the only one, he said. Many people believed those lies. Many people wanted to believe them. It was easier than treating us as equals. What happens now? Salith asked. Now you are safe. That is all I can promise. He left her with the medical team and returned to the bridge. His sister Yoonji was there, helping to organize the refugees. She had insisted on joining his patrols, saying that her medical training was needed. He suspected she also wanted to see the consequences of the council's arrogance with her own eyes. Did you talk to the Valari diplomat? Yoonji asked. Yes. What did she say? She said she was sorry. She said she knew the truth but wrote lies anyway. Yoonji nodded slowly. Do you believe her? Min-ho thought about it. I believe she is sorry now. I do not know if she would have been sorry if the council was still strong. But does it matter? She cannot undo what was done. None of them can? No, Yoonji agreed. But maybe they can learn. Maybe that is something. On Earth, President Oh Jun-ho received a formal message from Thalas. It was different from the angry demands of the past year. It was polite, careful, almost humble. We request renewed dialogue, the message said. We recognize that mistakes were made. We are prepared to discuss new arrangements that better reflect the current situation. Jun-ho read the message 3 times. Then he called a meeting of his advisors. What do they want? asked Defense Minister Beek Jasu. They want us to save them, said Intelligence Chief Han Soman. Their economy is collapsing. Their people are starving. Their military is in ruins after the Moroth Civil War and the fighting in the nebula. They have no choice but to ask for help. Help, said Ambassador Park Do-yeon. He was old now and tired, but his eyes were still sharp. 2 years ago, they told us we were children who needed to know our place. Now they want our help. What should we tell them? Junho asked. Do-yeon smiled. It was not a kind smile. Tell them no. One word. Nothing else. Will that not make things worse? Things need to get worse before they can get better. They are not really sorry yet. They are just scared. Let them be scared for a while longer. Let them understand what they have lost. Then, maybe, they will be ready to treat us as equals. Junho nodded. He wrote his response. One word, as Do-yeon had suggested. No. He sent it and turned off his screen, outside his window. The refugee ships kept coming, Valari, Thren, Moroth, all of them running to the species. They had once dismissed as worthless. The council had made its choice. Now it had to live with the consequences, and the consequences were only beginning. 2 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, Thalos came to Earth. She came alone, without guards or servants or advisors. She came on a small ship with no weapons. She came because she had no other choice. The Valari homeworld was dying. The farms had failed. The factories had closed. Half the population had fled to human space. The great cities that had stood for 10,000 years were empty and dark. The Moroth Empire was gone. It had broken into a dozen warring factions, each one fighting the others for scraps of what remained. Korath was dead, killed by his own officers when he tried to order another attack on humanity. His replacement lasted 3 weeks before being killed in turn. The Thren Collective had collapsed entirely. The client species they had controlled for centuries had finally risen up. The Thren had always been masters of manipulation, but they had never learned how to fight. Without humans to protect them, without Moroth to fear, their empire crumbled like sand. The Galactic Council was dead. And Thalos was the only one left to admit it. She landed at the main spaceport in the human capital. A delegation was waiting for her. President Oh Junho, Defense Minister Beek Jasu, Intelligence, Chief Han Soman, Director of Humanitarian Affairs Shin Nara, Admiral Yoon Tae-young, Ambassador Park Do-yeon, and Kim Yuna, who had been there at the beginning and wanted to be there at the end. They did not bow to Thalos. They did not smile. They simply waited. Thalos walked down the ramp from her ship. She moved slowly. She looked old. She looked tired. She looked defeated. She stopped in front of the delegation and stood there for a long moment. Then she did something that no Valari had ever done before a member of another species. She knelt. We were wrong, she said. Her voice was quiet but steady. We treated you as servants. We dismissed your concerns. We mocked your requests for dignity. We threatened you with war when you asked for respect. We were arrogant and blind and foolish. She looked up at them. Her eyes were wet. I cannot undo what was done. I cannot bring back the years that were wasted. I cannot restore the lives that were lost. But I can say this, and I can mean it. I am sorry. The Valari people are sorry. We see now what we should have seen from the beginning. You were never our servants. You were the ones holding everything together. And when you left, everything fell apart. President Junho looked at her for a long time. His face showed nothing. Stand up, he said. Thalos stood. You are right, Junho said. You cannot undo what was done. You cannot give us back the decades we spent being treated like animals. You cannot heal the wounds your arrogance created. He paused. But you can do better. Starting now. Starting today. He turned and gestured toward the city behind him. This is Earth, the homeworld of humanity. 2 years ago, we had 12 systems and no power. Now we have 43 systems, 12 new colony worlds, and the strongest military in the galaxy. But that is not what makes us different from the Council. He looked at Thalos again. What makes us different is that we do not want subjects. We do not want tribute. We do not want to rule over others and make them kneel. We want partners. We want allies. We want friends. You have them, Dallas said. Whatever you need, whatever we can give. We do not want you to give us anything, said Kim Yuna, stepping forward. We want you to join us. As equals. Not because you are afraid of us, but because you believe in what we are building. What are you building? A new order, said Ambassador Doyon. We call it the Human Cooperative Sphere, but the name is misleading. It is not just for humans. It is for everyone who wants something better than what the Council offered. He gestured to the spaceport around them. Ships were landing and taking off constantly. Villari ships, Thren ships, ships from a dozen species that had never had representation in the Council. They come here because we offer them what you never did, Do-Yun said. Fair trade, equal voice, protection without domination. We do not ask them to kneel. We ask them to stand beside us. Thalos looked at the ships. She looked at the busy spaceport full of people from every species working side by side. She looked at the human delegation, standing straight and proud but without arrogance. How do we begin? She asked. You already have, Jano said. Over the following months, the shape of the new galaxy became clear. The human cooperative sphere grew. Villari colonies joined, then Thren worlds, then former Morath systems. Minor species that had been bullied and ignored for centuries finally had a voice. Trade routes opened. Economies recovered. People stopped starving. Choi Yuanji's agricultural research fed dozens of worlds. Her disease-resistant crops grew on planets where nothing had grown before. She trained scientists from every species, sharing her knowledge freely. When asked why she did not demand payment, she always gave the same answer. Knowledge should not be hoarded. It should be shared. That is how everyone gets better. Admiral Yun Taeyong's fleet protected the trade routes. Pirates learned to fear the human patrols. But Taeyong never conquered anyone. He never demanded tribute. He simply kept the peace and asked for nothing in return except respect, intelligence. Chief Han Summon's networks exposed corruption before it could spread. Her agents were everywhere, but they were not spies for human power. They were watchdogs for justice. When she found leaders who were hurting their own people, she made sure everyone knew about it, and when conflicts arose, as they always did, humans were there to mediate, to translate, to find compromises, to do the slow, patient work of building trust between species that had hated each other for generations. One evening, Kim Yuna sat with Thalos on a balcony overlooking the capital city. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Ships moved across the sky like fireflies. Why did you do it? Thalos asked. Do what? All of it. You could have conquered us. You had the power. You had the right after what we did to you. But instead you built this. She gestured at the city, at the ships, at the galaxy beyond. Why? Yuna was quiet for a moment. Because we did not want to become you, she said finally. We saw what power did to the Council. How it made you arrogant. How it made you cruel. How it made you blind to everything except your own greatness. We did not want that for ourselves. But you are powerful now. More powerful than we ever were. Yes, and that is exactly why we must be careful. Power is not evil. But it is dangerous. It makes you forget what matters. It makes you think you are better than everyone else. Yuna looked at Thalos. We are not better. We are just people who want to live in peace. Who want to be treated with respect. Who want to build something good for our children and our grandchildren. That is all we ever wanted. That is what we should have given you from the beginning. Yes, it is. They sat in silence, watching the sunset dot in the years that followed. The old council became a memory. A warning. A lesson about what happens when you mistake power for worth and service for weakness. The galaxy was not perfect. It would never be perfect. There were still conflicts, still problems, still injustices to fight. But there was also hope. There was cooperation. There was respect, and at the center of it all, holding everything together, were the humans. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were the smartest, but because they had learned something that the old council never understood. True strength is not about making others kneel. It is about helping them stand.